So I made this video sort of a while ago, and this is going to be an updated version of it. It was about the Wereminks, and I kind of have to revamp it because there's a lot more evidence, and I made a lot of mistakes in the old version. I wasn't very specific. So if you want to check the videos out where I brought it up, I'll put them in the description, but for the most part, I will explain most of what I think in this video. Now, what made me think of this idea was the two events in which Wanda brought up the full moon's connection to the Minks, not once, but twice. And she hints at the full moon having some form of dangerous effect. Now, since the moon's relevance was never explained on Zoe, I still believe that we're going to get more information on it, and it could have to do with Zunisha itself, but then I saw this. Inuarashi stated recently that the Minks have somewhat of a trump card that they didn't use against Jack for some reason. Now, since they fought for multiple days, 24/7 practically, why wouldn't they have used this secret ability? But if we can connect what Wanda said about the full moon to the Minks, it's possible that their powers are conditional and they only work when the full moon is out. Zunisha's always covered up with fog, and this was the reason why the full moon was covered up the second time when Wanda spoke of it. But the Minks are now leaving Zoe, meaning the moon could now affect them easily if there's no clouds to cover it up. And even with the obvious hint at the full moon being relevant, how could it actually affect the Minks? Now, each race in One Piece seems to have some form of special power. For example, the fishmen are able to control liquid without even touching it, and they can control the energy related to the race's theme, which is water. We know the Minks have a special power, which is Electro, which is one of their race's specific ability, but we don't really understand it. Just like the full moon, it's possible that the sun can affect their bodies as well. Making their bodies somewhat of a solar panel, maybe they can transfer the solar energy to generate electricity. So while the fishmen can control the energy of the sea, the Minks can control the energy of the sun and the moon, which seems to be their recurring theme. An example of how someone was affected before by lunar energy in One Piece, it has also been shown that it can affect Kuro, who was stated to have gained bloodlust from the crescent moon. So while the Minks may normally use Electro, potentially fueled by solar energy, their second power may be controlled by lunar energy, which is at its peak during the full moon. But as Wanda hinted previously, there could be some form of danger to this ability. Since Minks are half animals, their inner animal instincts may be controlled by this dark power, and we've actually seen examples of this. Now, the first example of this is when we saw Carrot attacking Luffy over a carrot, and while this could be argued to be comical, it gets even more mysterious. Now, Peckham's was seen laying in the rubble of what used to be a house, and it could be assumed that the place was destroyed due to Zoe's movement, but the houses around it seem to be in decent shape in comparison. But I believe Peckham's himself destroyed it for some reason, and even the other Minks hinted at Peckham's needing to be controlled only a few pages later, implying he may have some dangerous power that he cannot control. These two specific examples may be hinting at some form of Weremink rage, where they become more animal-like and lose control of their human traits. And even more so, Caesar, when arriving on Zoe, even said that the Minks were described as dangerous barbarians to him. It may have been a case of the world government exaggerating it, but maybe there was a point where the Minks were actually much more barbaric due to this power consuming them. And what makes this even more convincing is that Nekomamushi explained that he was a monstrous human eater, but then later on showed to be a very kind-hearted person, which may be hinting that they have some form of split personality that even they're aware of. And then there's the mysterious split between the Dukes, and when they went to the outside world, their lack of self-control may have led them to become much more hateful and bitter. And since cats and dogs are natural enemies, their animal sides may have clashed over time. Peckham's, one of the few Minks that we've actually seen go to the outside world, is described as uncontrollable and he needs to be supervised. How come all the Minks that have gone outside of Zoe become much more barbaric over time? It could be because Zoe was created as a safe spot for them to control their animal side, which was seen as barbaric by the world government. Zoe has that fog around it which conceals the moon, and the Dukes also have the day and night cycle, which was maybe intended to keep this under control. So for these reasons, I'd expect the Minks to reveal this trump card, which may be an advanced version of Electro, which could tie into the full moon that Wanda brought up. We may see a much more beast-like form from them, which would be really interesting since we're going to fight the Yonko pretty soon. Now tell me what you think in the comment section down below. How do you think this power will work? Do you have any ideas? Like, favorite, and subscribe, and I will see you all later.